Jesus never, and understand this if you don't hear anything else, I say they understand that Jesus never ever taught us to lay down and become doormats to be trampled on by anyone. Now that's the idea that even a lot of Christians unfortunately have, and a lot of people in the world have that idea. Well, if you're a Christian, you should just lay down, just not say anything. You shouldn't protest. You shouldn't have marches. You're a Christian. You're supposed to sit down and shut up. You're supposed to sit down and be quiet. I got a Greek word for that, and most of y'all know what it is. It's called hogwash, hogwash. Jesus never taught that. He never taught we lay down and become doormats for anyone. He taught patience. He taught perseverance. He did teach love. He did teach to turn the other cheek. If the situation calls for it, turn the other cheek. He called for that. I'm reminded of an old Western I saw years ago. Can't remember what name of the Western was. Old Western I saw years ago where this preacher had come into town. He was a former gunfighter. And he laid his guns down and started preaching. And this guy met up with him in the street one day. I can't remember who the preacher was. I want to say like Glenn Ford or something like that. But anyway, the preacher met this guy up in the street. And this guy said, so you lay down your guns, son. You're a preacher, huh? He says, the guy hauls off. And he pops the preacher's jaw. I mean, slaps him, spins his head around. He said, now what did your Bible say about that? Preacher says, well, it says turn the other cheek. And he held his other cheek up there for him. The man hauled off, popped his other cheek. What does your Bible say about that? Preacher said, after that, it don't say nothing. Boom! And so, Jesus never meant for us to be doormats. We have to use wisdom and discernment when it comes time to speak and come time not to speak. And we won't even have time to get into all of that today. But he never ever commanded us to lay down and be doormats. We are commanded to lay down our life for the right reason, the right cause, the right time. Some are called to be martyrs, some are not. And so there's wisdom and discernment has to take place there. But there's so many that try to tell us that as Christians we should just sit down and shut up and just play along and just accept any old thing that comes along. You have no business in politics or social issues, they say. You don't have any business there. Too many preachers got that same attitude. Well, I don't want to bring politics into my pulpit. I got news for those guys. Either it's already there or it's going to get there, one or the other. One way or the other, somehow or another. So, because it can't be avoided. To say that Jesus was not political is the biggest lie that's ever been pushed upon the Christian church in this country. And there's, again, even preachers will stand and say, well, Jesus didn't get involved in politics. You better read your Bible. You better really study your word. It was politics and religion that killed him, that crucified him. So, there are those who propose that. And you need to not get involved in all this politics and things. And well, what did Jesus actually say? Didn't he rebuke Peter? They say. He said, those who live by the sword shall die by the sword. That's one of the biggest verses they'll use. Those who live by the sword. Peter, put your sword away. Peter, remember, in the garden, Peter cut the man's ear off. He said, put your sword away. Those who live by the sword die by the sword. And they use that as an excuse to tell us, well, y'all, you shouldn't even want to own guns as a Christian. You shouldn't even be for the Second Amendment as a Christian if you really believe what Jesus said. Again, it comes down to one word. What is it, Charlotte? Context. Context. All of these verses have to be read in context. You see, what Peter was doing was outside the will of God because God was trying to get his will done, and Jesus had to go to Calvary, he had to be crucified so that you and I could be saved. And so Peter, his action was saying that he was trying to head the plan of God off. He was trying to cut off the plan of God. He was trying to stop God from fulfilling his purpose. Again, there's another place where Jesus turned to Peter and said, get thee hence, Satan. Because Peter was saying something that was outside the will and the plan of God. Now, when Peter did something that was in the will of God, the Lord commended him. When Peter stood up that day and said, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. Jesus commended him. He got excited about that. And so when he needed commendation, he got it. When he needed rebuke, he got it. And so, Jesus did say those who live by the sword will perish by the sword. But to all of these, there's a lack of observance of context. We've got to look at it. And if Jesus thought and he taught that we should just lie down and play dead in the face of injustice, he would have never chased and whipped people, not just one time, but on several occasions, out of the temple. If he came along today and did that, you'd have that same crowd talking about, well, you're supposed to be Jesus. You're supposed to be meek and mild. You're supposed to be, you must have lost your sanctification, Lord. If he came along today and did that. And